Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. My name is Ken.
And I'm Nicole.
And welcome to our podcast series, Burnout Burns, where we talk about the science, the factors, and how to lead a more sustainable life.
Yeah, so for this episode, we thought it would be interesting to discuss success and defining what success means to you personally, because chasing a vision of success that is not truly aligned with what you believe in or what you really want for your life can potentially lead to burnout, because you are trying to put in effort and energy into something that might not give you back the kind of fulfillment that you truly desire, and that can cause burnout. So today we wanted to, talk about the idea of success and what it really means to us individually.
When was the first time that you understood this notion of success when we were growing up?
I think the educational system, so far, I'm sure they want to change things and have like different, variations of what success means. But I think in the past, or rather it still is, there is a one-track kind of definition of what success is. And that is, you go to a science stream, you go to JC, you go to university, and you get a good job, you get married, you have kids. It all starts from school. So I think for me, when I started to see this kind of distinct between what I wanted from my life and what society or my parents felt was better for my life, was when we get streamed. And I was really, really good at art. Like, I'm praising myself, but I have scored really well for art. And I really enjoy art. You can see that is quite evident in the things that I do now. But because I was also good in science and math, my parents wanted me to choose a science stream. And I was okay to do all the science and the maths and all that kind of thing, because actually I'm not very good at most humanities, but I also enjoyed literature. And I did well in literature. But unfortunately, there's no such, subject combination which allows you to take science stream stuff and literature and art.
So, what you're trying to say is that you're good at like everything?
No.
So how then do you decide which then should you pursue going forward?
I don't think I was given much of a choice, to be honest. I wanted to take literature in JC because I thought that, I really enjoyed that subject when I was in Sec 1, Sec 2, and I wanted to, get in touch with literature again. I thought during the speech that they were given during orientation, and they said, you could choose whatever subject combination you wanted, and I really believed it until I had to do the sign up form, and the teacher was like, sorry, there's no such combination as like physics and literature. Maybe now there is, I don't know, but at the point in time when I was in JC, there was no such thing.
Yeah, you only could shop from the certain catalog that's available.
Yeah, and also sports, I really wanted to do sports. There's this idea that if you pursue sports, you would not be able to do well in your academics.
That's true. I think growing up, I speak for myself, especially if let's say your grades were suffering in school, your teachers would stop all these extracurricular activities. Like if you were involved in some CCA capacity, they would find some way to dial it back. I was still thinking in my primary school that during the PSLE time, as we approached the examination, that we had to cease fire. And this was also consistent when it came to the O-levels as well in secondary school. So I suppose that kind of set the tone that academic success was the most important form of success, and that we should value that above everything else.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I think after we graduate, the whole academic success or academic being the most important thing literally just gets substituted with work. Then career becomes the most important thing, and everything kind of serves your career trajectory and version of success. And I think for society, in a sense, we like easy solutions. We like prescriptive things, and telling somebody to go get a good office job, get promoted, get married and all this is very prescriptive and it's very easy. And I think sometimes we like the easy answer because it makes us feel safe.
So then is success a cookie cutter type of thing when it comes to, the definition of success? Is there only one version of it?
For me, I definitely believe that there isn't, because we are all different and we're all wired very differently. So what may make one person very, very happy and fulfilled may make someone else feel completely unfulfilled, demotivated, and just not satisfied with the results or achievement, even if they accomplish the same things.
At which point in your life did you then discover that, okay, society has one version of success and that might not be for me and for everybody. So how do I fine-tune that? Or when should I start fine-tuning that?
I think that once I reached university, okay, all along I didn't really know what I wanted to do in terms of like a career and all that kind of thing. But once I reached university, I realized that, okay, the course I'm in, definitely not. It's definitely not what I want to do. I found something else on the side, which was like blogging and fashion, and that really brought me a lot of joy, and I would do it like with a lot of passion, and then I had a lot of fun doing it. So halfway through I realized that, okay, I'm not like other people, or rather the environment that I'm in, I felt like a bit of an oddball. And I think my classmates can say that I was a bit of a misfit. I always feel like a misfit, but I think it's more obvious because I was studying information technology, which is technically like being in the tech programmer world. And then here I was coming to school, getting all dressed up because I was starving of my creative outlet. So then I thought like, okay, you know what? I can't go down this normal path of success because I feel like I am not going to be playing to my strengths. And so I started deviating. I took a second major, more into comms, and then I would start taking subjects that were more in line with my interest and what I enjoyed doing.
I think nobody likes to discuss this, but I think there was a point because we knew each other back then, right? And I think that you were also contemplating on quitting at one stage.
Yeah.
Right? Because you were so upset and you were not feeling fulfilled. I can attest to this because that was you. So maybe you want to spend like just a quick moment just telling us what was going through your mind at that point.
I really felt that this was not the path for me. Firstly, I really struggled with what was going on. There were certain modules that I did okay in and I can even do well in. But unlike the rest of my classmates, I felt like I was struggling a lot. And even though my classmates were struggling with the course because it's generally a tough one, but I didn't feel like they struggled as much. So of course, like when I mentioned things like quitting, I think that was like in year 2, my parents panicked. They really, really panicked. But all I was doing, it was voicing out my concerns that I felt like I was in the wrong path. Long story short is that I pushed through. I was proud of myself for pushing through. I also did a second major to pivot, which pivoting we can talk about in the next episode or so, where we talk about changing jobs and pivoting careers, because I felt like my life is a constant pivot in my career. I graduated and my parents said that if you graduate you can do whatever you want, and I took it to heart, and I think they were like, oh, now she's really going to do whatever she wants, but that's not quite what we meant. So I didn't go into the industry that I studied in. In fact, I started deviating into fashion, and joining all the dots, that's where it led me here.
That leads us to our next point, because recently we just came back from Japan. It was a great trip, really awesome. It's your first time there, right?
Yes.
So again, that could be a separate video, but the main point being, like when we arrived in Japan, I remember speaking to you about it, the culture and the people and the way it works, right? It's kind of different. It's very unique. They have certain... What would
they have a
call
lot
it?
of rules.
They have a lot of protocols, right?
Yeah, they have a lot of protocols.
Like maybe, for instance, you can't be noisy. Like on a train, people should really be quiet. And people who are not used to that sort of culture, who come from very energetic, vibrant backgrounds or countries, might have trouble understanding that.
And then I was telling you that, did you know that skateboarding is also very frowned upon in Japan? But the ironic thing is that in the Olympics, they actually have a Japanese skateboarder called Yuto, who actually won the gold medalist for skateboarding. And I was like, how does he become a gold medalist if like they're not even allowed to skate in Japan?
Yeah, and that was really interesting, because I was thinking that the idea and notion of doing something that is not in line with traditional forms of success would generally be greeted with larger amounts of friction. And when I watched the video, I couldn't help but notice that he actually fell a lot, and then he actually would hurt himself. But despite all of that, he still kept on going. So that's a pretty interesting one, because like society says, hey, we don't value this sort of thing around here. The idea behind him chasing what was important to him, what he valued as success to him, was what kept him going, right? Like pursuing this dream and knowing that, yes, this is for me. This is what I really want to achieve in life.
Yeah. Is this really something to do with burnout? No, but I love the fact that, even for somebody at his level of success, which is Olympic gold, he still falls. Like when they were shooting video and he was trying to do tricks, he still falls and he still tumbles and hurt himself, like you said. And I thought that was really cool, that even people who are at the peak of what they do, they still face mistakes, they still face some form of failure, and these are all normal. So there's this quote by Stephen Bartlett that actually says, "Fail your way to success," and how failure teaches him that he was wrong and why he was wrong and how to be right in the future, and that failure is progress. And I think that while it's not directly related to burnout, but I feel like sometimes when we have a fear of failure, a fear of making mistakes, we start to become very anxious. And when we operate from a place of anxiety and fear of trying to avoid, failing, it burns us out even faster, because there's no real joy. You're not doing things out of the joy of learning or discovering or just doing. Instead, you're trying to avoid all these things. So I feel like anxiety does add to the fuel of burnout.
Yeah, so I think in life, no matter what we do, I'm sure we will encounter some sort of difficulties. But I think that what keeps us going, what is our conviction, what is our belief, what is our success definition, actually helps us to stay the course, or helps us to not be deviated in that sense, not give up as well. The next one is a bit of a fictional anecdote. It's from The Matrix. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, but I think, spoiler alert for those who have not seen it, Neo, the main character, is the one. And this was from the first film where he actually goes to visit the Oracle. And there's a lot on his mind, right? He's being told that he is the one, right? And he doesn't exactly know it yet, so he steps into the Oracle's home, and in her home, on the wall, there's this thing that says, in Latin, it's Timet Nosce, which is actually know thyself, or know yourselves.
Okay, so why is it important to know yourself? I think that being able to properly define what success means to you, or rather like what a meaningful life means to you, you have to know yourself truly. It's a journey, it's a discovery, and it's not a bad thing if you completely don't know. It's just that you just have to start and be on this journey to understand yourself, to observe yourself, to realize what really makes you feel fulfilled and find joy when you're doing your work. Okay, so we have a few pointers of how you can possibly work out your version of what a meaningful life is going to be like, or a meaningful and sustainable life, aka success, is going to be like for you.
So let's start with value alignment, which is basically your personal values, and is defined as principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. Okay, so in terms of value alignment, maybe Nicole, you could give us an example of what that would mean like.
Okay, so I think in my approach to, for life, for success, there's certain values that I hold dearly, which is like freedom. I like to be able to work on the projects that I want to work on when I want to work on them, to have that freedom, flexibility. And I also like autonomy. Yeah, I like to have ownership in the things that I do. So I don't want to just have somebody tell me what to do and then I go and do it. But one thing I can share that, for example, if something is misaligned at work in particular, is, for example, I have a value system where I really, really enjoy like really getting to the crunch of doing things well. And it's not that I love to overwork and all that kind of thing. No, I like to take the time to plan properly, give work the kind of work time it needs, do deep work, and at the end of it, my fulfillment from that process comes from the satisfaction that, yeah, this is a good project, this is a good video, this is a good whatever at the end of the finish line.
And does that need to be balanced sometimes with the pragmatic demands and the pace of society, because like our projects have deadlines and we have a goal date, right? And what happens if the goal date is like,
Yeah. So for example, I think there are certain cultures or certain work environments out there where they want you to work very fast and very surface level. If I keep doing projects that have this kind of characteristic where I don't get that sense of fulfillment, then I won't get topped up. So I would be kind of like, working on fumes because I don't get the satisfaction or the fulfillment that drives me on for the next project. So I think that looking for the right kind of projects is also one way I can avoid burning out. So the next one is priorities, and the reason why we decided to kind of split this to that values are not really the same as priorities is because priorities can possibly change with each season of your life. So maybe, at the beginning of your career, your priority is exploration and learning and getting to meet a lot of people, and those are your priorities in your career. So there are certain things you would prioritize. And then you have kids, and then they become a priority and your priority shifts.
We have aging parents and things like that where the personal realm becomes more important, and then maybe career needs to take a little bit of a backseat. So when looking for a job as well, we need to look at one that actually matches with our priorities in life. Otherwise, the friction might also lead to some form of burnout as well.
Yeah, we were sharing in the previous episode that priority used to be a singular word and now it's priorities. And I think it's very true that you can't have your top number one priorities. There are things that are going to have to take a back seat because you put something else in front of it. And these priorities really differ from people to people. For someone else, having a high pay stature or title in their career is something that they really hold high value and high priority in their life.
Yet another individual might choose to prioritize something like impact, for instance. And sometimes, like if you do work, if you want to create impact, money might not be at the heart of it because they are opposing ends. And so something's got to give.
Sometimes because different people have a different idea of success, and not everyone is so open-minded to the idea that everyone can have a different version of success, and that is still success. Then you face this kind of friction where some people are not happy with your vision of success because they want you to pursue a certain version of it. And then that's where some friction comes into play. Like it can even happen in your personal life, and it can even happen in your work environment.
So what can we do to begin crafting this success statement or these values? How do we...
There are some interesting TED Talks out there that talk about these ways or these methods that you can use to kind of really help you to dig deep and find out what do you actually value in life and what are your priorities. The first one is actually an eulogy. So they say, think that you died, okay? Everyone has to die sometime. But what do you want people to say at your eulogy or at your funeral? I think that sometimes death makes us sober up, to the fact that our life is not unlimited and we need to face the facts of what is really important to us.
Yeah, that's really true. I think looking back, I've always mentioned this in a previous episode about regret, and I for one don't really like to look at my life and say speak of it from that point of view where I wish I could have done this better. I wish I've tried this thing. And even if, let's say, you're not on the right path now, then how do we slowly fine-tune towards so that we know that, we're not moving away from it?
And I think that defining what success or what a meaningful and sustainable life means to you doesn't have to be this fixed thing. Like, you don't have to get it right from the beginning. I think it can be a process where you, like you said, are fine-tuning it. So there is another suggested exercise that you can do, which is to write down in quite a bit of a detail how an ideal week looks like to you. And you actually go through in the morning, what time I'm going to do what, how much time I'm going to do what, and write through it. And I know there are going to be people who are like, this is for the idealist. No matter what you write down, it is still something that you have to work towards, that you have to accept when there are trade-offs. But also sometimes a lot of people think that a lot of things are impossible, but it's the people who have done it that will tell you that it's possible. So if you ask the wrong people, if you ask people who have never tried it, they will tell you it's impossible. But there are going to be people who manage to get closer to their idea of what is a sustainable and meaningful life.
So what are some examples of these things that I could write down?
So describe even if you don't really know what kind of work you want to do at the moment, let's say if you haven't entered into the workforce, you can still be descriptive about what kind of work it is. For example, if you love to meet people, you love to have an impact with people, you can say that, my ideal week would be, let's say Monday, I get to meet up with someone and have a meaningful conversation, or be involved in a workshop, guide somebody on into a path of learning or discovery or learning something about them. So it doesn't have to be super concrete in a sense, but it can be descriptive.
Allow yourself to be honest, allow yourself to be free, and just like express yourself. And I think once we have all these things,
after writing all these things down, that is really the first big step, because I think sometimes we don't dare to even write it down, and then that acts as a compass, for your life. Like you mentioned, it's like a blueprint that is something that you're working towards, and you can make little micro shifts here and there to kind of move in the correct direction. After you've written down everything, you can always take a look and kind of do a reality check. How do I practically and realistically achieve this goal? What are the steps I need to take? What are the exploration I need to do? Do I have to go out there and find out the answer? It's like a map, like a treasure map, and you are trying to find the clues, the answers. You're solving jigsaw puzzles to kind of get to where you want to go.
And I think that's a very big deal, because once you have crafted the blueprint, second step is really about alignment. And that's really the big difference and the shift, because you are actually moving from a mindset of being reactive and what society has in store for you versus what you want for your life, because you have already kind of defined it. And while that's not perfect and that is fine-tuning, at least you know where you're going, and then you could use that to then chart your steps forward.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. We hope that you found this episode to be helpful, and if you did, again, do share with us in the comments below. We really would love to hear how this experience of success definition has been helpful for you.
See you guys in the next one. Bye.